When 11 Paths was merged with Telefonica, the cybersecurity unit had a healthy ARR in the double-digit millions, but it was not a security company, a security brand, or had security products. It made money from packaging and reselling licenses, running security operation centers, and providing professional services in the form of software development for big corporations adhering to their requirements, all of which have small margins and tight dependencies on big accounts. The vision was to transform into a truly security company with a recognizable brand and innovative products. This was one tough transformation process to go through because you need to say no to easy money coming in, hoping that the vision is going to work. And in contrast, you have to go through many failures, as such is the nature of innovation and finding a market. It was hard to build conviction with upper management, as well as with the more operational layers of the business, which had established relationships with their current customers. The cybersecurity unit was closing at $750 million ARR 3 years later. But if I leave it at that, you might get the takeaway of just follow your vision and things will work out. That's actually more often than not the case. Most visions have no solid foundations, so there's nothing to back up following a vision just for the sake of it. The success story that I'm sharing is the story of building the right strategy and establish and measure very closely the right metrics. The strategy is important to gain the aforementioned convictions, while the metrics are even more critical to check and prove that things are going in the right direction. The metrics must be relative to the vision, and one has to be very honest with oneself, especially when there is a lot of noise, which is usually the case in any transformation process. When it comes to oversight and accountability, there's two main things to talk about. One is getting things done, and the other is control and processes to, for example, guarantee that company policies are followed, resources are spent properly, etc. Having worked at startups, scale-ups, governments, and Fortune 500 companies, I can debunk the myth that the size of the company determines how these are applied. Okay, there is some truth to that, but in the end, big companies are broken down into departments, which leaders usually have enough autonomy to establish their own processes. So it comes down to management and leadership style. My take on this, when it comes to getting things done, as a manager, your job is to tell your team what to do, not how to do it. If you get into the how, you're dangerously into micromanagement territory. If you have put together the right team, they are probably better than you at what they do, so let them do it. Then when it comes to accountability, my metaphor is a transparent plastic umbrella that doesn't let the water pass, but allows to see through. When things go well, let upper management see who in the team did well, give credit where it's due, and facilitate your team's career in the future. When things don't go well, stop the rain and take responsibility. At the end of the day, you signed off what the team was doing, and if you didn't, you have a problem elsewhere. When upper management comes asking for responsibilities, it stops at you as a manager. On the processes and control, I'm heavily on the side of less control, more accountability. Instead of being blocked by default and needing several layers of authorization for any given expense or purchase, I'd much rather have everyone act freely and have their managers always get a notification of what they do. And it's then the manager's responsibility to keep an eye on their team following the processes, so there's always at least two people accountable. And this way you don't have an entire company slowed down with anti-fraud or budget control processes that are only designed to catch a very small percentage of misbehaving individuals. Since we are talking about digital transformation, chances are that the context is either a startup going into scale up or established company, probably decades old, catching up with modern processes and tools. In both cases, there are many layers of participants, from stakeholders or investors to C-level, mid-management, potentially all the way to blue-collar workers. It's imperative to understand that what's important to the people in those different layers is going to be massively different. Some focus on returns, some on growth, some on their own career, and some on not losing their jobs. In fact, the set of things that are important to all of them is rather small. So when it comes to motivating the workforce, maybe a department or even company-wide all hands, giving context to the things that are important is, well, very important. I'll share an example of when I was the CTO and CPO of a scale-up called Baba Cars, which traded cars online in emerging markets like Turkey or Pakistan. We were creating our first direct-to-consumer product, and it was very delayed. At this point, we were working with contractors out of Ukraine. Well, to them, there was never a reason for the original date. So being late meant nothing, and there was no motivation to work harder or faster, reprioritize, or do anything about it. It was only when I explained to them that the entire machine had been put to work months in advance, acquiring thousands of cars, expensive credit loans at high interest rates, people that have been hired to inspect, transport, fix, and clean all of these cars. Then they understood that actually every single day that the product was delayed was a day of all of these cars and people sitting down, costing literally millions of dollars. That was all the motivation they needed. And they weren't even employees, they were contractors, but proud. And they understood that their work was very important.